This is Erica.
Ryan.
And this is the recap video for week 4 of Balboa 2, June of 2014. And we worked, we picked up where we left off last week, which was double turns out of a toss-out, double free spins out of a toss-out, and giving tips for the follows and the leaders to make these on the spot and small, right? And so the first tip, can we turn this way? First tip was for the follows, that on the end of your toss-out, when you're in this position, right, when you're gathering on that 7-8, you want to make that first step shrink as small as possible, right? Not shrink, which is not in Lindy Hop that big of a step. For a Lindy Hopper, that's quite a small step. In Balboa, that's an enormous leap, right?
That's direction.
Because if I take that size of a step, when he lets me go, I'm already traveling down the line, right? And if he's asking me to stay on the spot, I want to stay on the spot as much as possible. For the leaders, we were asking the leaders not to flick the hand, right?
We're not following through.
Right? Let's change direction for this so they can see. That sends me down the line if he do it without me, right? If he actually sends his arm across his body at the end of the toss-out, he's throwing the ball this way.
Even if it's a fairly small thing, again, like that is probably enough
to send me down the line. So you want to release right in front of your body, right? We'll do this from a couple different angles, right?
So I think more of, tension and release.
Right? Can we try from maybe like a diagonal that way?
Oh, sure.
Right? Just for the leaders to be able to see your hand. Right? So leaders, do everything in your power to help the follow stay on the spot. Right? There are other variations of this move where you can send her down the line and everything, but you want to be able to control that. So we did multiple turns out of the toss-out. I have no idea how many Ryan's going to let me do, so I just keep going until he catches me. We do basic. We do our toss-out. Boom. We step, hold. Do. So follows, you just keep stepping that turn, right, with your arms in a somewhat gettable position. Hey, not here and not here. I'm still struggling with where to put mine, but keep them available. And leaders, don't crowd your follow, because if you crowd your follow, oh, do you want me?
Yes.
Right? I'm going to stop because you're so close into my space that I feel that maybe you want me, right? So the next thing that we worked on was out and ins. We reviewed the timing of out and ins, which if we did them solo, why don't we do it with our backs to the camera so our various roles can follow along. The timing of it, let's start actually the follows left, leaders right, because that's how it happens in the wild, right? So 5, 6, 7, 8, back, in, back, in, back, in. So now let's turn to the side so you can see our foot motion. So we're going back together, forward, in, back together, forward, gather, back together, forward, gather, back together, forward, breath, right? Whatever you want to think of that fourth count as being a breath, a gather, a hold. What you don't want is step, stop, step,
right.
Step, stop. That's going to feel really
right, because when you were doing it the good way, if you want to do that for a second.
The good way, okay.
Yeah. You notice that she's still continuing back through both counts and forward through both counts. She's slowing to a stop,
so we want more of this feeling, right? Like, then, and that takes time and practice to achieve. But with a partner, our entrance into this, the easiest one for us anyway, was a basic, half a basic, and
plant.
Out, in, out, breath, out, gush, out, ooh. Right? And we had you doing it just on the spot at first to get the rhythm, but it's really nice to move these around.
Yes.
And we played a little bit solo, at least, moving side to side. So if we're going to move these side to side, we do our basic, half the basic, and plant, and out, in, out, in. If Ryan wanted to change direction, he changes direction on the hold. Hold, ooh, right? So we always want that hold so that we can kind of catch up to each other.
So we can collect and redirect.
Collect and that's nice. I like that. Very catchy. And then you can also rotate your out and ins, which is a pretty standard way of doing them. So we do our basic, half the basic and plant, and we out, rotate, out, rotate. Now we're rotating constantly, but the impetus for the rotation, we think about it as happening on the in, because that's when we're closest together, right?
Makes the rotation
Makes
happen.
it nicer.
And I feel like it's nice with all these out and in moves to try to think about the out and in quality primarily.
That's
and
the most important
direction,
thing.
rotation.
Right.
Secondary.
Then we showed you how you can move from out and in straight into lollies without going through a basic or anything else, because technically your lollies are still kind of like an out and in, right? So if we're doing our basic and we go into out and ins, basic, shoot, do, half a basic and plant, and we out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. It's kind of a similar cousin, out, in. So we had you play with that. And then we briefly got you to play with going back from lollies into out and ins, which is a little trickier, right? So if we're doing our lollies, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. And the secret, leaders, was you have to get the follow to actually, I've been tapping, if you can each go into lollies, sorry. I've been just tapping and stepping, tap, step, tap, step, tap,
I need to make her put her weight onto that inner tap.
Ooh, yeah, right? So he is actually shifting me onto that as our new axis.
Right.
So that's pretty much, that was actually a lot of material. Yeah. You guys have been super champs, and we're super proud of you. So thanks so much for coming out.